incredibly kind of. I
I
don't
said
think
it was probably,
what
this was probably,
it was.
that's fine.
Oh,
Okay, as soon as Autumn tells us we're back in session, we're just gonna have quiet, and then we're gonna start with the next person in the second row. I know it's long. I know sometimes it can be a little repetitive or monotonous. So just bear with the process. It's democracy at work. Or at least somewhat. At work. Let me know when you're ready, Autumn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hold on, we're not quite ready yet.
We have to wait
She-
for our
she
live.
Gives us the heads up.
stream to be back up.
What's that?
I said I'll be good.
Oh, okay. Do the best you can. There's no judgments here. Okay, state your name and where you from?
Gabrielli, I'm from New Paltz. Grew up in New Paltz, went to St. Joseph's School, graduated New Paltz High School, SUNY New Paltz. They want to get me out of this town.
Where do you live? Do you live in the village or the town?
Live in the town,
Thank you.
lived in the village, but,
Okay.
so I want to say, Merriam Webster dictionary defines agriculture as the science, art, or practice of cultivating the soil, producing crops, and raising livestock, and in varying degrees the preparation and marketing of the resultant products. I don't think that we think the federal government and the Department of Agriculture has everyone dress up in bib overalls and work the fields. But I spoke to Heidi Jewett, whose family owned the Jewett farm for just shy of 100 years. And I have some quotes, I'll come back to you on that. But we talked about the easement, the conservation easement. And she said it was very strict. It was very strict purposely by Walkill Valley Land Trust, OSI, and by the Jewett family so that they could preserve a legacy of agriculture, farming. So I'll come back to that real quickly, and I want to talk about what you guys do. I know you have four issues, hardships. So I want to talk to some of them. The hardships are the size of the house. That house was built in a different era. It's 3,832 square feet. 3,832 square feet. And I want to tell you that the ceilings are 9.5 feet tall. The living room is 17 by 14. The dining room is 20 by 17. The kitchen is 17 by 17. That one bedroom is 23.5 by 17. 3,832 square feet. I'm sitting here today with my friend Ann Rod. Ann Rod has been in real estate for 22 years, and she kind of specializes in large scale high-end houses. And I don't like to give a competitor too much of a have to. She just sold a building place up on a $3 million house, so I'm happy for her. But she called me when Claudia and everyone were looking for a place, and she said, Bob, this is the perfect place for them. So, and I asked her just recently, I said, I asked her while I was sitting here, I said, how many houses over 3,832 feet? Thank you. How many have you sold? And she wrote, maybe 5 in 22 years. So the size of the house in itself makes it a hardship. I looked in the MLS records, and in the last, going back to January 1st of 2022, there's only one sale over 3,832 square feet, and that was on Jacobs Lane. The reason it was that big is because it was built with an indoor swimming pool. And they covered it up, and they converted it, and they made it a pickleball court. I think Sam can speak to that. So, but that's one thing I think that's very concerning. So, as far as the hardships go, unique or highly uncommon circumstance. Here's one. We've got an incredible, as I said to you before, very restrictive conservation easement. And I don't think anyone in their right mind could deny that did not have 100% community support when it went through. I was happy with it, so was the rest of the town. They took that and they said, let's make this farm a beautiful place for Newport, for Huguenot Street. And let's have a great scenic view, a view shed, if you will. I don't like that word. But you know, there's something that, something that Heidi said. She said, the easement serves to preserve the view up to the mountains, but it also serves to protect the view down from the mountains. It's its own little green space. So that's one thing that gives you unique or highly uncommon circumstances. That's a community generated, community supported conservation easement. That the use variance will not alter essential characteristics. This property epitomizes the characteristics of New Falls. It epitomizes our values in New Falls. This is character of New Falls. The hardship is not self-centered, self-created, sorry. Well, there are some hardships that work on it. Zoning is a hardship in the area, as we all know by now. There's also a conservation easement, it's not self-created, and there's also community desire. I don't think the community wants that place not to be preserved, not to be continued as agriculture. And arborvitae is agriculture. Maybe it's 2 minutes in one, but I want to talk to you about what makes this property unique. And I'll go very quickly, and I'm reading from the conservation easement, and it says, whereas the property has 600 feet of frontage, whereas regionally significant views from the property to both the Mohonk Preserve, the largest member-supported nature preserve in the state of New York, and registered on the National Trust of Historic Preservation, and to the Shawangunk Ridge. Whereas the expense of the property is prominent in the view from Bronacute Crag, again, look up, look down, and part of the Mohonk Preserve, the Shawangunk Ridge. The property has over 2,400 feet of frontage along the Walkville River, and thus its preservation will protect the water quality and scenic aspects of the river. Whereas the property contains excellent soils and agriculture worthy of preservation, and is now in agricultural use. Whereas the property possesses wetlands in the Oxbow area of the southern border boundary of the property, and will provide excellent habitat for a wide range of species and are worthy of preservation. Whereas the property is adjacent to the Gene Hasbrook House, yada, yada. Whereas the property abuts Harcourt Sanctuary, a wildlife sanctuary. Whereas the Walkill Valley Land Trust is conducting an extensive land preservation campaign. Whereas the Open Space Conservancy works to preserve agricultural and environmentally important lands. Whereas Grantee has determined it to be desirable and beneficial and has requested grantor itself and its successors and assigned to grant the conservation easement. Just those are really significant. This is a community derivative of our values as New Paltz. So this is what Heidi said to me in the telephone call. And I'm going to give you quotes. I hope I don't get a word wrong. I might be in trouble. The government should work with owners and successive owners to keep the farm open. She is in favor and supports agriculture and business that will keep the farm open, green, and viable. Quote, it costs money to keep property open and to keep land open and agricultural, to keep the land agricultural. She strongly encouraged the village of New Paltz to honor the intent of the Jewett family to keep it open and agricultural. It's a legacy not only for the Jewett family, it's a legacy for Huguenot Street and what do we have, 300 people who signed in favor in the petition. It's a legacy for them. It's a legacy for our town, our village, and surroundings. It is a legacy, and we should preserve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Let's go to Zoom, please. Hi, what's your name again?
Hi, my name is Nasia Camacho.
Hello, Nasia. Say,
So
where you're from, Nasia?
I live in
Where you
Hastings, on Hudson, New York.
Hastings, you're a student?
I just graduated this May.
Okay,
So basically in the letter that I had sent in, I talk a lot about just the respect that our faculty and students have for the land and how much we learn as human beings and just part of the earth as a whole. And I know that that can be hard to understand when you're not fully in it. But it's something that's very special that not a lot of people get to encounter, and to be in a place that is truly immersed in nature. You could not have a better place for people to actually learn how to help people with the land. But as I've been listening to everything this evening, something that keeps coming up for me is this idea of the slippery slope. And I just wanted to share something that I didn't write in my letter. And so slippery slope is inferring that the school does not hold as much value as something considered higher education. This is the highest education. This is where people come for their last resort, support that they didn't get from the modern world. The school creates interest in land, plants, and humanity, and in turn creates more farmers, more herbalists, more respectful people who are willing to put the support the needs of the community that's right now in front of them. Work in the community that we've done already is bringing the clinic to the library, trying to have teen clinics, which is educating the youth about land, about being able to take care of themselves, about wanting to be farmers or herbalists, or just someone who takes a walk and knows what's growing around them. And so I think it's amazing that we're really putting in the effort to help not just ourselves, not just, people who are looking for us, but reaching out to the youth that are in the area too. This is a way to ensure that agricultural and earth-centered practices and knowledge will continue to be passed down. Without teaching how to care for the land, interact with it, and build a relationship with the real world, not just an idea, there is no history to uphold. New Paltz is a place of community. It's a place where those who may have felt other at some point in their life come and have a sense of belonging. This school embodies that principle and is bringing another layer to the community, a meeting place where people can learn, grow, and actually participate together. There are not many in-person herbalist schools. This school is an asset to the town, supporting the health and well-being of not just the land it respectfully resides on, but every human that has the pleasure of encountering its teachings and genuinely good-hearted humans. Thank you for considering this, and I hope it all goes well.
thank you, Nasha. Appreciate it. All right. Let's go back to people who are here. We're on almost the end of the second row. Anybody left in the second row would like to speak? You're in the second row. All right, we'll start back on this way and go across. So let's start to the third row, and we're working our way through, guys. So just be patient. We'll get it done. Come on up.
I really appreciate your patience in listening to all of this. I think it's pretty informative. My name is Kara Lee, and I live.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
My name is Kara Lee. I live at 135 Huguenot Street. I've lived there since 1994. And I also was very involved in 2006 in raising money for the preservation and protection of the farm. I knew Warren Jewett and his cows.
There's cows.
I'm also the chair of the Town of New Paltz's Community Preservation Advisory Board. So currently, I'm still working with farmers in New Paltz who are trying to find ways to protect their land.
Can you repeat the advisory board that you're on again?
Paltz Community Preservation Advisory Board.
That's in the town of New Paltz, correct? Okay, thank you.
So, we are a town of small farms, and small farmers are struggling, many of them, and having to diversify. And so when people spoke earlier about their intentions when they gave money to protect this farm, we all had different expectations for what could happen with that farm. But I think that as farmers are diversifying, this is a great example. And I'm very convinced by the people I've heard tonight in terms of how this is indeed an agricultural use. And I hope other people are persuaded of that as well. So I wanted to talk for a minute about what your job is as the Zoning Board of Appeals in terms of rectifying the existing zoning with the use. And I understand that the question is a school appropriate within the zoning? And I think that the zoning does allow for agricultural use, and that the case has been strongly made tonight for why the activities of the Arbor Vitae School would qualify as an agricultural use. If that's the case, then it's not probably necessary for there to actually be a variance. I would be less comfortable with a variance in that the variance is a forever thing that runs with the deed. And it's hard to project what the future might mean in terms of just school. You know, we could think of all kinds of schools that we might not want that would not be the kind of fit that Arbor Vitae is. So if you have the opportunity to make this determination about agricultural use, it seems like that's a simpler, cleaner, safer approach than having to go through a variance. What I want to add, and I really thank people who have spoken so eloquently, Bob. I really appreciated all the homework that you had done about the property. All those values are so important. The Wallkill Valley Land Trust holds an easement. The easement is extremely strict in terms of what can happen on the property. It limits development very strictly, very clearly. And the Wallkill Valley Land Trust has found this to be an agricultural use. They reviewed the plans of the school and said, yes, this is an agricultural use. And they weren't just making it up. That was based on a definition provided by the New York State Department of Agriculture. I just want to say about the Wallkill Valley Land Trust, if you're not familiar with them, they are an accredited land trust, and they take their accreditation seriously in terms of monitoring how the land is used. And if they find that a landowner is not adhering to the conservation easement, they will take that up with the landowner, or they will take it to court. So it is not easy to breach a conservation easement, and it will protect the land in perpetuity. The other thing I wanted to share with you is, of course, the farm is in the Huguenot Street Historic District. And last night, the Village of New Paltz Historic Preservation Commission voted to support the Arbor Vitae School staying at the farm.
Is there a letter?
There probably is some record.
Autumn, just see if you can get that, please. Thank you.
The other thing I wanted to say is I'm out on the street every day, walking up and down, seeing what's going on. The impact of the school is, the negative impact of the school is imperceptible as far as I'm concerned. There is not an increase in traffic. People talked about parking. All the parking so far has happened within the yard of the house. It's not out on the street. So it's not posing any hardship on anybody on the street. And I would say that on the other side, the positive impacts are all the things people have talked about already in terms of interacting with the community and offering services, open houses, and bringing business to the town. And finally, Judy's point of that beautiful, huge house not sitting vacant. It's heartbreaking to see it empty, and it's lovely to see people in it and using it. So I think that's everything I want to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody else that's left on Zoom that would like to speak? No hands? Thank you. So
Yes, I do. I'm sorry.
What's
do.
your name, please?
My name is Jasmine Romero. And I am from Oceanside, New York, which is Nassau County. And yes, so I drive about 2.5 hours once a month to attend school. And I am in favor of the school remaining at the location for the reason that prior to becoming a student, and I will be entering my 3rd year now in September, I had absolutely no knowledge about agriculture or just growing food or anything in regards to plant medicine. In fact, I was very sick prior to entering the school. And the knowledge that I've learned just from the professors on how to grow nourishing foods and how to care for your body has been such a very profound experience, because not only have I been able to help heal myself, but I am also a mom of a 6-year-old autistic child who does struggle with health issues. And I've been able to grow my own food and help him with his challenges, because just knowing how to properly care for the plants. And I think that's something that should not be taken away from anyone. In fact, I think that this knowledge can be passed down to future generations. And I think that's all about preserving the land, is passing it down to future generations, because we can help the community so much. And we've already done that. We've helped so many elderly people in the community just become better by just incorporating more nourishing foods into their diet and just helping them sustain that vitality that maybe they've lost throughout their years. So I'm deeply moved with everyone that has spoken, but if you have some type of empathy in your heart for just the world around you, because when you look at the world, there's a lot of people that are sick, that are dying. And I think the world needs more herbalists, more people that care for the land, that care for humanity as a collective. And I think that's what we're here to do. And we are here to preserve the land. We're here to care for one another. And yeah, I thank you for your time, and I hope that you can reconsider the school staying at Huguenot Street. We can do so much for the community, and we already have. So thank you for your time, and God bless you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Okay, let's go to, I think we're into the middle of the 3rd row.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Riddell. I live at 173 Huguenot Street, which borders the Arbor Vitae property for about 300 feet on the north side.
Hi, Brian.
I'm not an expert in anything that's been talked about here today, pretty much. My professional life has brought me, though, to a number of public hearings, some in the audience and some of you guys are sitting. So I know this is not an easy task, but when we get into the middle of some of these, these knots and these brouhahas and where we're going and where we're not going, I always used to rely on, what's my purpose? Why am I volunteering my time here at the Zoning Board of Appeals? Why is this time spent? And basically, it's for the community good. People working for the village in such a way are really about the community good. And you've already heard from a number of community members who think this is good. So the purposes of zoning in the village of New Paltz is in the code. And one says to promote the orderly physical development of the village. So this decision would not really come along, that would not really impact this decision. Conserve and enhance property values. We've already heard arguments how an empty house deteriorates, lends negative atmosphere to the neighborhood. And keeping a house occupied is certainly conserving and enhancing property values. Provide for adequate housing, that's really not applicable in this instance. Provide commerce. I think we've already heard from a number of people that this is a commercial interest, has interest in further developing those commercial interests. We've also heard from people on the outside who have come to New Paltz, to Arbor Vitae, to spend money in town. Okay, so they are providing commerce, which is one of your purposes. Improving traffic circulation, not really applicable either. They provide no more traffic than, I would say, an event at Garvin's. And it happens as infrequently as an event at Garvin's. And again, I'm there, I witness this all the time, it's my neighbor. So the other thing about regulating density and structures is not really applicable, you're not really involved in that. Provide open spaces. Obviously, your decision would continue the preservation of this beautiful open space in the beautiful Walkhill Valley with views of Mohonk and Bontecoup Crag. And that's the other purpose of the zoning board, of the zoning, to preserve and enhance aesthetic and historic values. I think we already heard a lot of that also. The farmhouse, beautiful farmhouse. The barn remains, beautiful barn. The silos are gone, unfortunately. The windmill is gone, unfortunately. The property next door maintains the creamery, which was part of the farm. So any decision y'all make here tonight is certainly going to preserve and enhance the aesthetic and historic values of the village. So there's certainly irony here, but I don't want to get into that. But my mind drifts a lot during these public hearings too, and I'm sure yours do too. But I know Warren, it was mentioned, Warren Jewett, a gentleman farmer and great neighbor for many, many years, would love to see people interested in harvesting, being involved in his family home where he grew up. And the land around him. I thank you for indulging me this evening, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Brian. Brian. These are notes. My mind doesn't drift. Okay. There's a lot of notes. Is there anybody left that's on Zoom? Okay, again, while the public hearing is open, if somebody does appear on Zoom at any time, as long as the public hearing stays open, whether it's tonight or it's in our next meeting, you are free to speak until I close that public hearing. So don't think because I closed out right now, just the Zoom portion is there's no one left to speak, that you're prohibited from speaking should you come on. If not tonight, then it'll be the next time. All right, let's continue with who's here. Come on up.
My name is Michelle Riddell, and I live right next door to Arbor Vitae. We've lived in the creamery at 173 Huguenot, which was originally part of the Jewett Dairy Farm, as was the farmhouse. We've enjoyed living there since '85 and have raised 2 children here. As the closest neighbor of Arbor Vitae, I would like to offer my overwhelming support for their continued residence. These are the best neighbors a person can have. Not only are they respectful, friendly, and helpful, they are a welcome and wonderful presence in our community. Arbor Vitae is a sustainable and revitalizing connection to the land, encouraging values of land stewardship, local economies, and community agriculture. They are teaching young people these values. And I was wondering why Judy was going on and on about the terrible neighbor we had who was a farmer. And I'm like, why are you saying this? And, you know, when I realized that a lot of these people on on our street were like impacted so negatively by this farmer, right? Who was there and was so nasty and destructive. I went one time into the barn because I thought the vultures were making some noise or something. And he said, "You're stealing things from my barn." And I was right next to him. So, and then, this so-called farmer, which he did make the land beautiful. The land was beautiful, but we were all miserable. And then I had this dream, but I never did it, of getting this farm machinery, this old farm machinery that was right there, and maybe bringing it into the front of the property. And Warren said it was okay, but I didn't do it. The next thing I know, it was gone, and this guy had pushed it all into the oxbow. So it's just, who the people are that are next to you impacts so powerfully on our lives. I mean, people were crying. People were like, ah. Anyway, now we have the wondrous Arbor Vitae and a family next door, and it's wonderful. And as I said, I cannot emphasize strongly enough what an asset Arbor Vitae is to the community. They are reteaching this lost art, this time-honored use of plants as healers and nutrition. In the last year, I personally have learned from them about some herbs which have been right outside which have definitely improved my health and my sleep. Some of these herbs that are growing right outside my house, such as motherwort, which can strengthen one's heart without the side effects of expensive pharmaceuticals, and edible wild plants that are so nutrition, including sweet cicely, stinging nettle, and ground ivy. So many weeds that have even more nutrients than the greens I grow in my garden. I am urging the zoning board of appeals to view this as an appropriate use under the existing zone designation use. The Walk Hill Valley Land Trust, who are stewards of the land, have recognized that Arbor Vitae is not in conflict with conservation easement and that their activities fall under their guidelines for agriculturally related. From the folks at the Land Trust, the Huguenot Historical Society, to local and town neighbors, you see that there is widespread support for this wonderful addition to our community. Please do whatever you can to make sure Arbor Vitae can make this their permanent home. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Who's next?
My name is Miriam Strauss. I live on Huguenot Street. I've been there, only been on Huguenot about 8 years, but I've been in the Hudson Valley since mid-'80s, year apparently, Michelle, and in New Paltz for most of that. And I lived on a farm in New Paltz. But I actually want to revise what I wrote, because I said, please grant the application for a variance. And in terms of what you said and other people have said, I think it is an agricultural use. I believe it is one, and that therefore there's no need for a variance per se, and then there's no slippery slope, which is a legitimate concern. I'll just read what I wrote. It's very much along the lines that people have said. The applicant is teaching skills which complement the missions of farmland and open space preservation. Their activity has a negligible impact on the village infrastructure, such as water and traffic, and a positive impact on the community. They're a welcome addition to the street, the village, and the larger community, and thank you. And I also walk on the street constantly, and I see their impact, which is truly negligible in terms of parking or anything like that. And incidentally, I did, even though I wasn't living on Huguenot at the time, I did give some money to the Two Farms Preservation Campaign and attend a benefit and so forth. I think, many people did. So please work out a way to keep them here in the community where they're doing good work and the farm is being actively farmed as far as that goes. The hay bales are there for you to see.
Thank you, Miriam. Anybody left on that third row who'd like to come up and speak? Can we go to the fourth row? Okay, who would like to? We'll go left to right again. I'm sorry about that. All right, if you got somewhere to be, let me know. We'll move you up. We're moving along.
Born in Poughkeepsie, made a slight detour, came back, and I live in the town. I live in the village.
Where do you live?
Right across from Mr. Redcorn, which is town, 136 North Chestnut.
That's the village.
Our village. Okay, so I live in the village. I walk on Huguenot Street quickly. And I understand why they'd like to keep the land open. It's gorgeous, but I feel that this is the perfect use. And if I'm correct, I believe school's only 8 weekends a year. So that's 16 days out of 365 that we have people coming from us. Nothing. And the other concern, I'm like, we're smart. We can figure this out. I always see people on the weekends, they'll park in the BOCES parking lot to go on the rail trail. Why couldn't students park down there if neighbors don't want to see 20 cars parked on that property? It seems like it would be an easy fix. The other thing I was thinking about though is when I first moved back about 25 years ago, I lived in Kingston and my neighbor had a historic home and she bought seeds from historic Williamsburg because she wanted to be really historic. And I laughed because I knew what half the plants were. They were weeds that you learn about in arborvitae. I'm an herbalist too. But I was just thinking, she could just gone down to an empty pond and dug these out. So Williamsburg was founded around 1700, the same time historic Huguenot Street was founded. So I'm sure on Huguenot Street, they were growing these herbs because they were using them to dye wool, to make medicine, to eat. So this is not a far leap to make that this is a historic and appropriate use. And I think they are good neighbors. It's a really, really good use. And I have lived near a farm and thank goodness that guy didn't have livestock. Have you ever lived near a farm with livestock? It's stinky and messy and there'd be too much waste going into the already dirty walk hill. So I think this is a much better use and it's a light use. It'll be beautiful. And you learn things. You can go and say, what is that? And they'd love to tell you. So I think it's the best of both worlds and we're smart enough to figure out, and thank you, historic preservation, because you're right. I do think it's a slippery slope. I don't think it should be changed to variance, but it is an agricultural use, but it's a nice light use. Well, you'll preserve your view and it'll be quiet and lovely for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Patricia. All right.
My name is Elena Serino. I live in Hewitt, New Jersey. And I'm here to speak in favor of keeping arborvitae at 181 Huguenot Street. I'd just like to take a moment to thank you all for letting us speak tonight and for everyone who has spoken in favor of and against. I want to thank you all for taking the time to speak.
If I know you're going to drive that far, we'll let you come first.
That's okay. I'm here with some of my dearest friends, so I don't mind. I'm currently going into the third year program at arborvitae, and I'll complete my final year to become a clinical herbalist in May. I've only been at the school for a year, and in that short time, the program has been one of the best decisions I've made in my adult life. Every month that we travel to New Paltz for class, I walk from my car along the historic street of Huguenot, and I'm inspired by the impact we as humans have on the land that we live. There are historic buildings standing strong through the generations, signs reminding us of the things naked to the eye, but not the heart, and banners hanging in the neighbors' yards, inviting all to join in a life of inclusion and diversity. Arbor Vitae School of Traditional Herbalism is a school based on these exact values. Residing on excuse me, Esopus land of the Lenape people, we learn of the often difficult history of our country and are constantly finding ways to support voices of those who have had it stolen and silenced. This is modeled by the diversity of teachers and students woven throughout the program. With that awareness, we are able to help share the knowledge of different cultures and learn traditional ways of farming and medicinal plant cultivation, choosing to take active part in the ecological diversity of restoring the land. In the same way biodiversity creates strength in a forest, the expansion and integration of additional forms of education can only provide a more positive impact on the microbiome of this community. The individuals who have built this school did so with a mission to put as much good out into the world as possible. These ripples, even if subtle, reach far, attracting those who choose to follow the same values of leaving this world better than it was found. The 2 white doors on the front of the school welcome individuals of every background, encouraging us to discover our truest potential of how we can help those in need. I am beyond proud to call myself a part of this community and know that I will have deep and lasting relationships with these people for the rest of my life. My wish is for you to have the opportunity to experience the same. I hope that in these years to come, the roots of Arbor Vitae grow deep as its branches grow tall, reaching all who call this town home, whether in house or heart. And I know I didn't include this next part in the letter, but I just want to speak, listening to everyone share tonight, that what the teachers of this school are doing for us and for the land that we are trying to create this beautiful space at is helping us to develop a relationship to that land. Richard Mandelbaum, who was mentioned earlier, is one of the 4 faculty members, and he is our botany teacher. And he has took us through the entire property of Huguenot, showing us all of the plants that are growing on that land. He familiarized us on the first plant walk we went on with the Arbor Vitae tree growing in the cemetery down the street. He's taken us for plant walks in the wildlife sanctuary. So he is actively engaging us in developing a relationship with this land. And Sam, who's here tonight, and I were on a walk on the land earlier this evening and noticed a beautiful mullein patch that was growing on the land. And mullein is an incredible medicine for the lungs. We just experienced a horrific event last week where we all inhaled probably the poorest air quality we will experience or have experienced up until this point in our life. And that medicine is growing on this land. And I'll never forget the first weekend we were up at school, someone was mowing the lawn, and Claudia, who is sitting right here, single-handedly ran downstairs from the 2nd floor classroom to stop the gentleman who was mowing the lawn to preserve. We've been talking all night about preserving this land. She ran outside to stop him from mowing over that mullein to preserve that medicine. And I cannot say with enough emphasis and enough urgency that I can promise you these are the people that you want on that land. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Is there anybody else who, if you've already spoken once?
Guys, I need 1 more minute.
Allowed to come back up after they've spoken about it. No. Right here.
A minute? Come on.
No, it's something I forgot to say.
I figured that's why you came back up.
Yes. So you've heard about the variances and the arguments for that, for and against. The idea of permitted use has been introduced and has been supported by a number of influential groups, not only in the community, but in the region. But I also, being cursed with the ability to read and a thirst for research, quickly, I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but I will follow up if it's not, I will. There's a special permit use allowance for education, even in the historic district. And that's all I have.
Did you list that, what code that's under?
Unfortunately, I left those notes.
Oh, thanks.
It's in the application.
Fine. I don't remember it. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Okay, I'm going to leave the public hearing open for our next meeting. I would advise this. We've covered a lot here tonight. There's a lot for us to digest. If you're going to bring up, if you want more people to come and speak, please try to have them bring something that would be new or that we've not heard. That's all again, I cannot stop anybody who wants to repeat and come up and be heard and support, and maybe they're very charismatic and powerful speakers and feel they can offer things that way. I like to think we're immune to that personally, but that's just me. But obviously, if we can hear something new, that'd be great. If you feel something's already been said, I'd ask you to refrain so that we could proceed on with the business. Obviously, this is a rather big topic. It's not something that we take lightly. It's going to require a lot of thought. And I'll leave you with that. We're going to go on to other business.
Can I just ask, I do have a couple things to mention about this, so do you want to finish that now and then move on to the other application?
What I ask you.
We have the 145 process.
It's the same as 137.
Yeah, we have copies of it.
Oh, they're back here?
Yeah.
Okay. They've been waiting the whole time they came back here. No wonder why they didn't. I thought they were with the other group. I didn't realize it. Okay,
I did want to just say something else about this while the applicant's here.
which one? Oh, about,
About the 181.
they're not on the agenda. I don't want to get into a discussion if they're not even on the agenda. We canceled that, only the public hearings on the agenda. They canceled their discussion of whatever. Oh, all right, that's
Okay,
fine.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
if they're here, it's
Yeah,
convenient,
great,
sure.
okay.
Go right ahead. Our attorney's gonna ask you some questions about stuff that she requires.
Okay, so we are going to need an environmental assessment form, so I know you retained an attorney, so he'll know what that is, or let us know if you need more information, but for the environmental review. And the board also needs to vote to refer this application
Let's see.
to the village planning board and the county.
Can I get a motion to refer this to the village planning board and county as the
Motion.
lead agency? As the lead agency, as the lead agency? No, we're the lead agency. What am I referring to specifically?
Referring it for the 239M review.
Oh, I didn't know that. All
Yeah.
right, so I could just refer this to the
For
planning,
use
for the
variance.
239 M review as a use variance.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm sorry, I didn't know. it was-
No, I didn't know. That's okay.
All righty, you're free to stay and hear us do other business. It's not that exciting. Not as exciting as this is gonna be anyway.
What is the next?
Well, the next step is. It's okay. Well, the public hearing is open. Once that is closed, you're free. I actually would recommend, I'm not going to get into an open floor debate with anybody as you come here next time, but you can hear us deliberate. You're free. It's an open forum. It's the public is allowed to come. And you're free to come and listen to us. And at that point, if I feel comfortable, we will make a decision. We maybe not completely next time. This may be hotter than.
Do we have to wait for a return?
Yeah, we do have to. We have to.
Yeah.
That'll probably be there in a month though. But we're not going to vote. I doubt we will vote on the next meeting. There's a chance that we might, depending if we have more people for the public hearing. If I close that, you'll be able to listen to us debate and apply our factors to what we do. You'll hear what our views are on whether or not there's a variance or not. You may hear us investigate some of the things that you've brought up here and see what type of merit they've had. I could tell you we would be in an executive session with our attorney before that meeting. So. No, there's the use variance requires and yeah, but just this.
Or to the planning board, heard that it was closed. But
They don't have a vote here. This is not.
right, but I
Yeah,
just
that's
also
it.
want to point out, my understanding is that the applicant should retain an attorney. You may want to present a slightly different argument or some
And-
additional information that.
He's there to speak for you. Just remember, this is not a, tell council, this is not a court of law. It's a zoning board meeting. We're all pretty smart people too, so it's not a court of law. All right, that's it, guys. So we're gonna get on to our stuff. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time, where you've come, how you've driven. Safe trip. Thank you.
Thank you.
How about I'm sorry, why don't we bring up 145? Ooh, I didn't even know what.
I didn't.
Does anybody know what they was doing?
I
They
saw,
came in, they looked really official, brought a board and everything. I'm like, what am I gonna see here for the farm? Thank you. Have
I
a great
thought we
evening.
had farm
We
pictures.
would have done you guys first.
I
I thought you had pictures
Why
of
didn't you say
meadows.
something?
and-
We were going by the order. I mean, oh, we don't care.
Oh, no, I actually had Scott
We
here.
had Scott, we knew who Scott was, but
Yeah,
we never.
because we're not ready to really, we can't do anything with this anyway.
Just a public hearing.
Schedule.
Okay.
We met yesterday, correct? Am I mistaken you?
Okay.
Helmet on, you know?
Yeah.
All right, guys. So. Yeah, we're on 145. Pull out the agenda for me. I got it up right here.
Oh, yeah, that
So-
one's less.
Yeah, so I'm gonna need to make a motion to open up a public hearing for 145.
Well, we're
Yeah.
not, we don't have the hearing tonight. We're just gonna.
No, I'm gonna make a
we're
motion
just
to schedule.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I said hearing. That one's on me. All right.
Yeah, we would have done you guys second. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize. That was all fault.
That's all right.
You had to listen to some.
Did you learn anything?
I did learn, I don't know if I was dating.
I lived in town since I'm 5. I get it.
Okay, let's get this done so before I don't forget. Can I get a motion to schedule a public hearing for 145 North Chestnut for our next meeting, which is July 11th? What a guess.
And we have the same issue with this one that we have to refer it to the county because it wasn't part of the.
Yeah, so we're not allowed to vote on it.
So you can take a vote to.
Say that again, I didn't
referral.
hear.
239M
Yeah,
The area variance.
wasn't on the
the reason why we sent Scott
The
away.
area variance wasn't part of your first, I just want to make sure we don't.
We were prepared to vote on this tonight, okay, and feel that we have all the information we
Well,
need.
not this one.
No,
This
not
one.
this one. I understand that, but it is tied together.
They're similar,
I know that.
yet different.
I would have, if you had gotten that on the agenda though, I would have voted with that one as well. Okay, so I gotta make a motion to, so wait, we can't do anything. Don't need to make a motion to do anything. Schedule a hearing, and what about refer it to the county? I need a motion for that though. All right, so can I get a motion, to refer this to the county?
Motion.
M232 39. Motion,
Motion.
second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we got that set up. So let's see what you have for us.
Okay.
And then obviously it's been a long meeting, guys, so
Yeah,
let's.
so we'll keep it very brief. I'm Jason Anderson, architect. We're here with Ken, LRC.
So the design engineer.
So real quick, what we've got is the side yard variances, right? So that was
On the other side.
Yeah, so we've got two of them. So what's unique is that the reason we can't really do much here is part of the MBR district. We've got a residential, but it has to have a commercial component, right? So now what that does, when you go into the fire code, the New York State Fire Code, any building that has a commercial component that's over 30 feet requires two means of access for emergency vehicles. So we've got one here and one here.
Yeah.
Now you've got emergency vehicles. There's two different parts of the code. The first is if it's.
All right, I don't mind being back.
Well, yeah, but you're blocking the whole of the.
There I am. Thanks.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Autumn.
The people want to see, you know?
So when it comes to the fire code, there's two different pieces. You have, again, the two are required because you've got a 30-foot plus height building. So the MBR allows us 35, which we comply with the MBR on the height. We have to have the commercial piece. So that's what throws us into the fire code.
Does that have to be 30 feet wide? Why is it
So,
30
yeah,
feet?
so here's the thing. So there's two pieces of the code. The first is if it's a standard, not aerial apparatus, just fire apparatus access, it's a 20-foot wide access point. Right. However, when you go 30 feet or more with a commercial component, we listed it in the application, you then have to have an aerial apparatus, right? So that they can swing the ladder up and get up on the roof.
A different type of fire equipment, technically widened because of the outriggers.
That makes you go to 26 feet wide. So that's what we show here. We've got a 26-foot wide, 26-foot wide. Not shown on this plan, but we have to show how the fire truck can get around through the property.
Which it does.
Each direction, which it does. So that really is what puts us
with, even this is a shared.
What are you maxing out with on that part of the building? When I said the width of it, I meant the building itself, not the actual driveways. Because you made the building very, I guess, long or parallel to Route 32. Is there a reason for the length of that, or it's just to maximize the square footage that you?
Yeah, so what we did is we said, okay, we need one access point on this side as close as we can get it, right? That still works with DOT. So you'll see here, we've got a small retaining wall, this, and then this is an existing. So we went from.
No, I'm asking
The
the length of the building. Was there a
Code
purpose for that?
requires us to be as much of the frontage and actually
This
wants
is
to.
the opposite. It has to be under foot.
Right, so actually.
This is the bizarre rule. This is,
Right.
it has to be 15 feet.
What's the minimum?
Or less.
Oh, that's,
Yeah,
It
so-
wants us to have two
It wants
15-foot
us to
tiny
be
drives
clear.
Okay.
with the building across the whole frontage, so you
Yeah.
don't essentially see it.
Right, and it wants the parking in the back. If there's a part of the
is the
zoning
other
code
issue.
that says that they, as, it doesn't,
okay.
yeah, that's got a little piece to that.
Because we have-
So technically, right now, we're 28 feet here to our property line. It wants the building to be 15 foot. Same thing here. It
So,
wants the building
yeah.
to be at 15 foot.
So
off
you
the-
actually need a
So
variance,
how
so
would
you
you
don't
do
be as long as you can be. So you need like a bizarro
Yeah,
reverse.
thanks,
well.
Adam.
If I had been reading this and not, I bought a house in Florida, boy, so I've been really busy. I would have read this
So here's the
closely.
really interesting thing though. Regardless, let's say the fire code didn't exist. How would we get a driveway, practically speaking,
Behind the building.
to behind the building at 15 feet? Because you have to grade. You can't just pave up to your property.
You got turning
And you
radiuses.
need
you
20
gotta worry
feet
about,
just to
yeah.
meet.
Water,
Yeah.
water flow.
What was Corey's view on this? Did you speak with Corey?
Yeah,
I'm always
so-
wanting his opinion.
So he agrees with the two access.
Yeah, I'll
points.
speak with him as well, but I agree with that. Yeah, I remember now talking.
Yeah,
about
there's
it.
really,
Okay,
This bottom one is shared
it's
with,
shared.
The car wash.
yeah, okay.
okay, so this is, all righty.
Why did you guys access the rail trail in the middle, not on the left or the right side?
So the reason for the middle is the central component connection to the unit itself. If you look through.
Oh, is that the entry?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
And there was a question that came up with the planning board relative to public access through here.
Yeah,
And it's a private facility. The owners don't want, random public coming through from the front, riding through the back and riding through.
The connection to the car wash, is that, what do you foresee there? No, the other, that little entryway there, yeah.
So this was part of the DOT.
Yeah, so the
I was gonna ask that.
consultant for the traffic consultant met with the DOT. And being that this is such a wide open, free for all entry. I mean, we've all seen it and been around Agway to the car wash for years. Everyone goes in whatever direction they want.
Yeah,
They wanted it to be a little more controlled. So when
okay.
you're leaving the car wash, you didn't have the ability to drive right into the side
Right
of the
into
car
it, right.
coming
So
through,
you're
which
gonna
is
put-
what everyone does.
So you're basically gonna put something there and then just leave that
Correct.
spot open.
Correct.
Excellent.
It'll have a
We're adding
formal
this.
curb access through.
Make sure
Come out.
people are gonna hit that curb.
It's gonna
But that's
take
the
a while.
proper thing, though. I agree with you.
that'll, support local businesses by suspension.
Roddy will get a lot of new tires.
A lot of new tires.
A lot of new tires. Roddy's gonna be in.
That's good, I like that.
Roddy wants to sell you a tire anyway. Sorry, Roddy, if you're listening, but $125 for his Coopers. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's really it.
Why we're
It's-
here.
We're sort of stuck.
Okay.
Well, this is pretty reasonable.
All righty. Well, we've got the public hearing open on this. We can't straw vote or anything right now, but proceed ahead. And, I think this is a,
And we're in front of the
That's a
planning
good-
board. We
Yeah, we
just
gotta-
submitted. to-
yeah, I saw John today. I'll bounce this, but just real quick, make sure everything's, the Ts are crossing the Is and dotted, if that's the case. Well, the public hearing, just so you know how this is scheduled. Once I close that public hearing, we'll need a couple other things in place, right? As far as the lead agency on this, did we make that motion already for CEQA? It's type 2. Do I need to make a motion as a type 2? Okay, can I make a motion then? This is classified as a type 2 CEQA?
A motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that's clear for you guys. I'm usually, I was gonna tie this in with 137. If the public hearing goes well and nobody grenades us with something we didn't know about, we'll try to go through our 5 factors and give you a straw vote. And then what would happen is the next meeting, we'd put it into the record. Okay, so that's what we're looking
So
to
we're
do
looking
here.
at possibly, an
Just- Yeah,
The area,
well, that's when you get the paperwork, but in July.
right,
the
but
okay.
the grass.
If we
area
can get to
between
that.
this Doesn't,
we would need this. first
on,
before
it
we
would
get
be
to-
between the car
Yeah,
wash,
but
none
then
of that
if we-
falls into
if
the
we do
grass.
vote in July
protected
and she
marshland.
drafts it, even though we have to bring
Right.
it into our minutes in August, you'll be able to
Fine,
take it in
but-
front of the
Okay.
planning board.
Yeah. So technically it would be July.
July, but you'll get the
You
official.
guys got lucky. That was, you can thank
Well,
someone
we have-
150
yeah, what'll
years ago
happen,
and
she's gonna-
graded that out for.
It'll get out there. We'll make our vote and.
Yeah,
we
you
will
should see
instruct
the
our attorney to
at
draft a
137,
resolution
they have like
based
big-
on the vote that we had. So
Yeah.
you'd know it right there. So when we get it in
Yeah,
August.
you lost.
No, Sean's only changed his mind like 4 times. He's never changed his mind. So that right there, we make that vote in July, you'll know. The planning board will know as well. The document will get drafted and then we officially put it in a record into the next meeting. I'll try to tie that
I
in
do
37.
appreciate the
because they're both
expense.
needed. I like the way the buildings
Yeah.
look, what's going
Yeah,
on.
Yesterday, we had a great HPC meeting. We're down to like minor color variations, but everything there. probably was-
Listen, guys, I'm gonna say this to what we're trying to do with that corridor and in our own little world of the zoning board. I can't tell you how to behave. I can't tell you what's your favorite color. I can't. All I can tell you is to act responsibly. And this is our community. If you go to a community like Ridgefield, Connecticut, you see the beauty of it. You see the connectiveness of the architecture that's gone on. What we can only do so much on the zoning board, but we're trying to do that in our own way. And I would ask you to be responsible to continue that practice. All right. And if you do that, believe me, we will work with you to no end.
We appreciate
All
it.
right.
That's what we're hoping this.
Yeah, I apologize for like not noticing you back there.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm
Now,
really-
next time you guys know who we are. So next time say something like,
Yeah.
we're short.
Oh, I saw him walk in, but you're a regular. so-
Yeah, I know. He's here.
I was just like, he's always got something.
I remember thinking, what you're gonna show me with the farm.
All
All right.
He's an herbalist. He's an herbalist.
Still on camera. All right. So anyway,
Herbal tea,
Um,
clearly.
thank you, guys. We'll keep you informed of what's going on. The public hearing is open.
We'll see you
Come next week. We'll see you next month. July 11th. All righty. Thank you. We got May minutes.
Okay.
Can I get a motion? Everybody, thanks, guys. Can I get a motion? Everybody, review the May minutes?
Yeah.
Can we, adopt them into the record? Can I get a motion for that?
Motion to adopt the record.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any village board updates, Autumn?
In regards to part of the conversation tonight, Michael Mueller submitted a letter to the village board in regards to consideration for some changing to the zoning regulations.
Thank you.
I'm gonna.
Well, that, we don't change codes, we only interpret them, so I can't,
I got a bunch of notes on the back of that.
Oh.
Actually.
there you go. Yeah, put that one. I know, I got a ton of notes. Real quickly, do I need to make a motion to schedule an executive session for at least a half hour before our next meeting? I think that we will need to meet
Yes.
on this with our attorney. There's a lot of things that were brought up that we will need to address and be prepared for. I guess I can talk about that right now. Is it okay to just say what we should be prepared for? I don't know. It's not an executive session. I'm just saying, one of the things I would like to understand, number one,
We should turn off the camera.
no, it could be on. I don't want an opinion. I just want to say what we're going to be prepared for in our executive session.
No, I have
I think we want a copy of the easement. Okay, I'm gonna want to review that. We'll talk about from Brian with the special permit allowed for education.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm curious to see. Okay, I just want to see it, and then we'll talk about a few other things as well. But just make sure we have those two things on hand.
So my expectation is that their attorney, who's already called our office, will probably be presenting some different information or arguments that vary from what's been requested so far. So we may have a different perspective to consider.
Well, as far as I'm looking at this now, teaching agriculture is not the same as growing agriculture. I'll just leave it as simple as that.
I did have
We're
a
not getting into
question.
Discussion about it.
I did have a
but
question as
there-
far as
I'm not gonna,
the
just so you know, guys,
definition of harvesting.
I'm just gonna
Is it
lay
question?
it out this way. So the-
We should turn the
is there, no, it could be out because this is all I'm gonna say. There's a reason there's a variance that's required. It's in front of us. We're not here to determine whether or not it's an illegal, it's a zoning, it doesn't apply to the zoning code. The building inspector has cited them. They're in front of us. It is a variance that's requested, period. If something changes, that'll happen.
Right, we're dealing with what's been requested and we're.
That's right.
But it's not,
Zoning.
it's not us to come up with a.
You're right. That's what I'm doing. I can't get into a discussion whether or not, there's a reason that's in that variance, the reason why the building inspector wrote it up as such. I see no reason at this time to not follow that. It's not my purview, my prerogative to tell him he's wrong. I'm here to interpret That's it. All righty. Can I get a motion to end the June 13th meeting?
Motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.